Who was this painting done for? Who would have seen this picture?
Who are these sitters?
Is a man of the people.
A military leader.
A fashion icon. Do you think they would have dated each other?
Maybe.
Time and again, it's portraits that have struck the deepest nerves. They are us, but who are they? It's Old Masters Week. It's our favorite time of the year. And we're really lucky this year to be having the opportunity to sell so many portraits.
Today, people still collect portraiture. You're still interested in the history of who they are, why they were painted, why they were captured in such a fashion, really still resonates here in 2025.
What's so much fun is to be able to show these very different paintings done centuries apart in certain cases together and to discuss why they were painted, who they were painted for, and who would have been the audience at the time that they were executed.
What's interesting about these two paintings is that we, as experts, spent quite a long time trying to figure out who they are.
But we can make some pretty good guesses just by how she's portrayed, who painted her, what she's wearing.
It does feel to me like the sitter is someone who was probably famous in Venice in the 16th century. This was probably painted not for his home, but for dignifying him maybe in the Doge's palace.
Your guy, you could go have a drink with him. My lady's not so approachable. This woman would have been really presenting herself as a fashion icon of the late 15th century.
This painting is for a family commissioning a portrait of their young daughter. She is fresh-faced and beautiful, and I have to say, I love looking at this painting. Doesn't it just make you smile?
She's very demure. So Margaret of Austria, her mother and father were among the most powerful emperors in Europe. She was born as the heiress to the Habsburg dynasty. So really, she was painted to show their subjects who was in charge.
It is a portrait of Jean Thomas. He was the Count of Bérulle and the Lieutenant General under King Louis XIV.
Clearly, my portrait, the plaster bust, is of Benjamin Franklin. He appears to be speaking. His lips are slightly parted, his eyes are gazing to the left, and there's a little sparkle in them. And this is what the sculptor excelled at. This wonderful depiction of a man who was alive.
Looking at a painting like this, we have lots of clues to work from. You have to look at costume first and foremost. Black is the most expensive color to produce at this time. And then somebody's laboriously tied these incredible knots in the expensive garment, presenting herself as elegant, stylish, fashionable, and aristocratic.
She is wearing the most luxurious dress. She's also playing an instrument called the virginals, which was a very expensive keyboard instrument. So for her to be standing in this luxurious space, playing a high-end instrument, really elevated her to that of an upper middle class.
This gentleman dressed in their finery, the man who's clearly wealthy, powerful.
He's wearing his armor, and you can see the way that the artist has captured the glint of light coming off of his breastplate, and he's holding the baton of command. So he's really demonstrating his authority.
Comparing to yours, this portrait of Benjamin Franklin, he's wearing unconventional Puritan dress. He's not wearing sort of fancy, self-aggrandizing armor. He let his hair flow naturally. He came from simple beginnings, and he was really a man of the people, although incredibly brilliant.
As was common practice at this time, alliances were made and forged through marriage. Her future husband would perhaps have one opportunity to see what she looked like. She's wearing an ermine-lined velvet costume. Every decision is to show her in her best light as a powerful yet demure heir to a great dynasty.
One thing that I think is really interesting about these portraits is the character that they reveal.
As Lieutenant General of the King's Army, he was actually actively participating in these military commands, which is something that the artist has very cleverly conveyed in the painting. You can see smoke rising up from the landscape, almost as if there is a battle scene unfolding in the near distance. It projects the ideals of rule, of power, of grandeur, of military achievement.
Where I think your man is engaging. This woman, she's a bit aloof. The fact she's silhouetted against this dark background makes her almost like an icon rather than a portrait. She has to remain enigmatic.
What I wonder about this picture is the column behind him is so specific, so beautifully painted and so freely painted. And it feels like it must have something to do with him. Maybe it's something to do with where he worked.
What would your guys say?
You're guilty.
This painting is by Bernardino de Conti. He is a pupil of Leonardo da Vinci, and I think in this picture you see some of that gentle shading and treatment of light that you see in Leonardo. How do you feel about your guy?
This is one of the few known completely autographed works by Tintoretto, who, along with Titian, Veronese, and Bassano, were the four great painters in Venice in the 16th century. Tintoretto creates a vision of Venice in his portraits that is current until today.
We live in a world where portraits or images of yourself, selfies, dare I say, are so accessible at any time. Before photography, even if you were royal, you may have only had your portrait painted once in your life. There's a lot of pressure riding on these individual portraits, and to be the royal portrait painter, that was the highest calling for an artist.
The thing about portraiture is, I don't think it's changed for anybody. You always want to present yourself in the best possible way. You want to look 10 years younger than you are. The genius of a great portraitist is figuring out how to capture the inner part of that person, but also to present them in a way that they really want to be. Who would you rather have your painting painted by?
Of these two?
Yeah.
Probably Tintoretto. How about you?
I think I have a good profile, so I might let Bernardino do me.